So really warm welcome to everybody to another session at the Networks Festival. Today's Thriving Networks in Practice, which I'm really excited to be co-hosting here today with David and Alicia, two of my colleagues from Greaterthan. Maybe just quick show of hands, who here has been to other sessions at the festival already? Just to give it a sense. Yeah, definitely quite a few people. Okay, great. So the session today is actually part of a bit of a tradition. So someone was already asking here in the chat, like, what is this about alumni? Like, what are we actually doing here? So one of the things that Greaterthan Collective does is that we have a lot of courses that are cohort based, and one of those is called Thriving Networks. And that course, it's an 8-week journey, and it's been running for a couple of years now, and has brought together over the years quite a lot of really inspiring, interesting humans that are building networks and communities around the world, and that were asking themselves specific questions or looking at challenges around money, leadership, and also like value flow and resources. So that's really what the course has been focused on. And now Greaterthan, we've been running sort of network festival-like things over the past years. And a tradition that has sort of emerged from that is that every year we host sort of a Thriving Networks alumni session, but that is also a like learning out loud space for anyone to drop in and to basically connect with those people and to also hear about what they've been learning and what their challenges have been. So basically, that's the format that we're bringing here today. And so one part of our session is going to be what we call a fishbowl that will explain how it's going to work, but where specifically those who went through that journey together are going to share from their experience and reflect on the last years of growing their networks and the different challenges that they've overcome. But so before we dive into that and I say a little bit more about what's ahead, I just wanted to give us all a moment to land. And since I was mentioning the theme of traditions, I just want to invite you, if you like, to either close your eyes or soften your gaze, and to just get grounded. Feel your legs or your bum as they're touching the ground, and just let your mind and your body sink into this question of what is a tradition that is alive in your community, your family, your life. Just think for a second about, what is a tradition that is there? And then just take a deep breath. And as that tradition pops into your head, just take a moment to feel into it. What is it like? What is the experience of it? How does it make you feel? And then I'm going to ask you to slowly open your eyes or bring your gaze back to the screen and go into the chat and just share something, an element of what just came up for you, maybe just what that tradition was, or how it made you feel, anything that you might want to bring to this group about the importance and value of traditions. And you can just press enter right away as it's coming through. Just keep it coming. Playfulness, grounding, intentionality. Great. Sending greeting cards, family vacations, lots of different things. Great. Well, thank you so much for briefly tuning into your own traditions as we now go into this tradition around the Thriving Networks experience. So just to briefly give you a sense and orient in the session and what we have ahead. So we have an hour and 20 minutes left in the session. And so we're actually going to kick off with a brief inspiration spark that I'm really excited about, that I'll introduce in a second to just get warmed up and really tuned into this theme of growing networks over many years. And then after that, we're going to have about 40 minutes. It's really going to be this fishbowl dialogue format where we're going to hear from lots of different people and experiences and really be able to be in that dialogue space. And then after that, we're going to have a little bit more space for you to reflect and participate and basically for the whole group to reflect together in like whole group sharing and in the chat. So it's basically like, 40 minutes of fishbowl, and apart from that, other participatory dynamics. If you can only listen, that works. We intentionally tried to design it today, unusually so that you can also choose to just listen, but also we really love it if you participate actively. And when we're all in the main space, turn on your video and are here to jump in and share. So that's what we have planned. And I think with that, I want to introduce our speaker, Ash, who's joining us from India. She's a social entrepreneur and network builder and an Ashoka Fellow. And she's been working in the field of youth-centric development for very many years. My understanding is that she's been involved in a lot of different organizations that have lots of interesting interconnections. And one of them that we're going to hear about is vartaLeap, a cross-sectoral community with like a lot of different stakeholders that seems to have gone through a very interesting journey over the years. So yeah, really excited to hear a new perspective and story, and see what we can learn and be inspired by and also connect with and build on. So I think with that, I'll pass to you, Ash.
Okay, so thank you so much, Francesca. A beautiful start. And first of all, really grateful to be here with all of you. It's a completely new community for us, and it's so wonderful and inspiring to see so many people who are in the practice of building and nurturing collectives and collective spaces. So looking forward to the learning. Before I begin, we have begun. So can I also ask you all to sort of move around a bit? I think Francesca gave us a good start, and I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment. Are you game? Everybody should be. Yeah. Okay. So what I want you to do is just stretch out your arms. I know we can't. I don't know how much you can see me, but yeah, let me stretch out your arms and fold them as you would normally, and just sit back and relax. Yeah. Okay. And I know we can't see everybody's arms, but I hope you can see mine. And I want you to look at how you folded them. Like my right hand here is going under my left, and my left one is over this other hand. So just observe how you folded it and which arm is going under and which arm is going over. Okay. Pay attention and observe closely. And if you have got that, I would like you now to open up your arms again and fold them differently. So put the other arm out. It's always difficult for me. And fold it differently. Yeah. I hope many of you get it. I can't see everybody on the screen. I have to change my format, but I hope everybody tried it and got it. I'd love to hear from you a little bit on the chat. How was it for you doing this little exercise? If you can share, what was your experience of it? Okay, being challenged, learning, awkward, Christine, disorienting for a moment, but then easy. Kate says, took more intention, feels weird. Jojo says, interesting, nice, beautiful, uncomfortable, Emma says uncomfortable. David says, I think I folded my arms this way for the first time. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, you learned something new then. Geesa said, did not come naturally. How beautiful, yeah. And I think this is the start of our session today. And as it's designed also to discuss what are the challenges, what are our experiences and challenges as network practitioners and weavers. And this is what we are also going to talk about, our own journey through some of the challenges and what we've learned, and hope to hear how you resonate. And I'm sure we've had very similar experiences. And I'm going to, Alicia says, had never thought about how I fold my arms. Yes, I think in this today's conversation, let's also find what maybe we have never thought about. I'd love to learn from your discussions in the fishbowl as well. So this has been our journey of collectivization and building networks. The word collaborate has another word nestled in it. Can anybody put on the chat? There's another word. There's in collaborate, there is a very important word nestled in it, if you can. Labor, exactly. Oh, lab, that's also interesting. Yeah. And actually, that's what we want to talk about and share about. And I think we all know that collaboration is not easy. It requires us to really put attention, make effort, and really step out of our comfort zones, get uncomfortable to get collaborations going, and it needs the labor. And I also said the labor of love. Okay, I'm also reading the chat, and there's somebody also said bore. Yeah, it can get boring too, but we'll talk about that later. I guess we find it really exciting, so that's why we are all here. So collaboration really needs labor and labor of love, and that's what let's try to explore. And in this really competitive world, why we are having such difficulty in dealing with these wicked problems, to really address the complexity and the depth of issues that we want to resolve, that we want to address. And this is the labor that we are all trying to make. But this requires us to really get out of our comfort zones. And I want to really share a little bit about our organization. So if I can introduce, so ComMutiny The Youth Collective began as a community of practice of about 100 youth-led organizations. It has been a community of practice. At one point, we were about 100 youth-led organizations, all working on promoting and building the field of inside-out youth leadership. And it has been a wonderful organization. We were doing very exciting campaigns on youth participation in democracy, on gender-based violence, on social entrepreneurship. And as a collective, we really had built and contributed to building the field of youth leadership. But over time, we found that we had become a very inside group. We had become a group which had a kind of similar language, similar practices, similar ways of seeing things. And therefore, somewhere along the way, we began to feel we have become so collected in our own space. Our boundaries have become so tight. And we began to question, are we really making the difference that we want to make? And are we really shifting the field that we want to shift? Are we going to be just organizations doing youth leadership work in our own spaces, or do we want youth leadership to be broad streamed and it become everybody's mission? And that's when we decided that it was time to get uncomfortable. And we broke through these boundaries and decided to set up what is called the vartaLeap Coalition. Varta means dialogue, leap means leap in English, Varta is a Hindi word. And the whole deal was to bring together players unlike us, completely different from us, from different sectors, and really think of shifting the field of youth leadership by creating a cross-sectoral coalition with the mission, every youth a Jagrik. Jagrik is a self-awakened active citizen who awakens others. So every youth a Jagrik and every space nurturing these self-awakened leaders. That was the mission of vartaLeap, and that is the community that I am part of now. It's a coalition which ComMutiny has initiated. And the making of this coalition is what, from where we began our learning of the true collectivization process. A little bit about us. We are about 183 organizations, 235 members, so institutional and individual members. And we have representatives which are not just from youth and youth engaging organizations. Consciously, we have brought together funders, representatives from the corporate sector, government bodies, and other international organizations and academic institutions. It has a representation across the country. And in the making and now in the progress of building this coalition, which is working on youth leadership, is where we bring to you most of our learnings. But one, we can take this away, Pravah. And why I talked about this evolution of ComMutiny incubating the vartaLeap coalition is to do this. We really had to change ourselves. And we have to literally change and evolve our identity. And we call this process the whole idea of navigating paradoxes in the process of nurturing collectives. And the first paradox that we talk about is this navigation of the identity of me and we. And for us to really understand and bring together people from other sectors, we literally had to change our language, change the ways we worked, change the way we would even look at the problem itself. And suddenly we found we had a whole much more larger systems change view of youth leadership because we had the courage and we took the labor to bring so many different people into this coalition process. And I want to share in this journey, therefore, we have what I would like to talk about is some of these challenges, some of these uncomfortable paths that we have to cross, which we have framed together as the paradoxes in collectivization. And I'm going to request Pratibha to share. Thank you so much. Pratibha, my colleague, is here with me, and so is Kanika, who's the convener of vartaLeap Coalition. She's with us right now. And yeah, and this is something that we developed, which is actually what we frame is that it's not easy, this labor of building collectives, and you would have experienced these paradoxes also in your work. And I love it as I speak about them. If we can hear your own experiences in navigating this with your collectives and your networks. So we talked about from me to we. These are the bees buzzing, all the collective players. And then I want to talk about the second paradox. When we started the coalition, it was really one of its kind in India in terms of such a large coalition with such a wide variety of players. It's not easy to bring cross-sectoral players together, as we know. And there was so much ambition and excitement when you start something new, as we all know. And as social entrepreneurs, you're right there wanting to get into action and get things going, show the world what change you want to make. And in the process, we started building campaigns, building joint programs, doing different kinds of research, making films, building narratives. We started doing so many actions with the idea that, oh, we have to now show up as this collective that delivers. It worked very well for a while. There was a headiness, as is in any startup times. But somewhere along the way, over 1 or 2 years, we began to experience many of the members started leaving. So there was one place where there was a lot of activity and a lot of action and a lot of impact and achievement, but there were also reasonable number of members who began to leave. And this was a moment of reflection for us. And we began to do a lot of conversations to try to understand where have we gone wrong. And this is when we figured that we had been focusing on the head, the hands, and the feet, which means we were thinking together, we were doing brilliant envisioning, we were doing great work on the ground, but we had somewhere along the way stopped connecting to the heart of the members and the people. And our focus was so much on action and less on the relational aspect of the collectives. And therefore, this whole navigation, where all are important, the head, hands, the feet, and the heart. And it is only then we started investing in one-on-one relationships, in understanding our members really deeply. They are not just organizations who are instrumental to a collective vision. They are also individuals, and how we need to invest in them. This was a big turning point for us, and that's when the collective took on a completely different form, and I believe began to thrive. I want to share some of the other paradoxes because I don't want to go into detail with all of them, but I just want to share that you will resonate with some of these. The third paradox we talk about is the primary and secondary role. Members of organizations who are in the collective, for them, their organization is a primary, it's their primary role. So when they come into collective, the voluntary engagement is always a challenge. This navigation on how do you value the volunteer contributions of members of a collective in a way that also strengthens their organization. So it's something, it's again a very important paradox to attend to. My territory versus no man's land is really essentially in collectives. There's a lot of white spaces. And who are the people and who are the actors, and how do you encourage leadership to emerge, self-organize, that there is collective ownership to take charge of the whole space. It's not a hub and spoke model. It's not that, okay, there's somebody controlling and others have to follow. How do we create a space where everybody is a leader? Simmer and Stir is about, many collectives thrive on large campaigns, big public initiatives, but we forget that behind this big persona of the collectives, there is a lot of work that needs to be done, which is smaller, day-to-day sustained action. And these are where we do our working groups. So we realized that many members were not really into the larger public space actions, and we had to build labs, experiments, working groups, which actually really sustain the energy of the collective over time. So you have to be sort of mindful what activity you build into the collective, which sustains everybody's interests and energies. The other paradox we talk about is capability and passion. As collective nurturers, how do we focus on not just the passion? A lot of people come with passion in collectives, in your collectives, as you would have seen, but also how do we build the competencies and capabilities? So managing both. And finally, we talk a lot about the diversity, the zebra and rainbow. It's easy to become very black and white if we don't focus and constantly examine the inclusion and diversity in our collectives. And therefore, the whole aspect of when you have to be clear, when you have to be black and white, but when you have to be completely open to new energies, new relationships, new identities. And that's what we call the zebra and rainbow paradox. Pratibha, you can probably take these off. Walking these paradoxes and learning about collectives, we have actually worked with many such, and I want to mention a few. We are right now working with towards incubating the India Early Childhood Development Collective, a life skills collaborative in the country, and the Social Emotional Learning Collaborative as well. And these are some of the best organizations. And the most beautiful thing about it is how do you work with such stars? Each organization, each collective is a star, but how do you build a constellation that works together? We have a little formula we have drawn from all these experiences with all the members, which I'd like to share with you. We call it the Seeing, Being, Doing framework. And it's quite, as the words are simple, it's easy to imagine. In the seeing part of it, it's important to see together, to envision together. It's not good enough for a few people to envision and the rest of the collective to follow. How do we see together? How do we develop the charter together? How do we align organizational goals to collective goals? So that part, the envisioning together, is very critical. And it's very hard to do it with 200 people. But we've actually had a charter written, co-written by nearly 150 people. So how do we do that at scale? The seeing together becomes critical. The doing together, of course, we all know. That's something we are familiar with. As human beings, we are action oriented, and we know what work needs to be done. So that's a narrative building, collaborations, consensus building, setting up the structures, all of that. And the governance, how do we govern a collective together? The last part I want to focus on, which we have built, we are trying to build as the key, which is the being together. Many collectives, we find, are not able to focus on this because we are so action oriented. And you can see on the side, we talk about belongingness, developing kinship rituals, how we need to do that. We need to harmonize conflict, and we need to have a positive view to conflicts. We need to encourage conflicts to be able to bring new energies. And of course, the being together is about inclusion, trust, shared leadership, lots of bonding and learning. The being together is not just about those happy, fuzzy feelings. It's also how we frame it is about co-creating impact. So normally people see impact as something that you do, but for us, being of a collective is in itself an impact. And I don't know, sometimes we've said that if, communities are so hard to build, as you all know, you all are practitioners. They're so hard to nurture and hard to build that there needs to be a space and a recognition for network weavers like yourself, like all of us together, so that their resilience, their well-being, and their capacities are also built, such that the being together process is seen as an end in itself. It's not about just changing the world. It's about actually building communities for the sake of building communities themselves. And that's what I want to leave this conversation at, with lots of love and salute to all of you who are investing your love in this journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ash. That was really, really interesting. And I gotta say, as I was listening, there were so many points. It's like, oh, that resonates with this experience and that. And like, yeah, there's a long list of things that feel like there's a lot of wisdom that we've also experienced. And I'm sure many of the others that are here as well today. So I think this was just a perfect way to dive us all in and like see all the different aspects that are really important to build thriving networks. So with that, I'm going to hand to Alicia, who's going to take us into the next layer of this exercise, and over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Fran. So, well, we've gotten a lot of inspiration. I guess you would have lots of questions for Ash, but I will ask you to hold that and to listen to other stories and to then also share your stories. So we're going to go into a fishbowl conversation to listen to those stories. And I'm going to walk you through how to do that in just a moment. So here we go. Let's see. I prepared this without the absolute current Zoom version, so bear with me. It's not exactly like this. So we have, let's say, we have a visual conversation, and I'll show you how we do it technically. I guess that many of you have been in fishbowls before, whether in person or online. It's a participatory format in which we have, let's say, if you imagine we do it in the same room, we have chairs in concentric circles, and the people in the inner circle are the ones that are sharing the stories, and the rest of us are listening but there is space there in this fish in the middle. There usually is let's say a hot chair where people can go to, and then someone else gets out. So we always have 3-4 people, those are our fish, who are having a conversation. That's what happens when we have chairs physically. And here on Zoom, those are going to be the people that we see. And I'm going to show you how to do that. It's not only switching off the camera. And we have a question for that collective conversation, which is, what are the challenges you have overcome with your network, and how have you overcome them? And then a second, let's say a sub question of that, what have been important sources of support, strength, and resilience? We're also interested in knowing what are the things supporting and what are the conditions that allow us to overcome those challenges. Ash has talked about loads of them, and I'm sure there are many more learnings to make. So that's going to be our topic. I will paste later in a moment the prompt in the chat, but let me show you how to do this technically. So I'm going to ask everyone except for the Thriving Networks alumni, because this, let's say this is the tradition, you please have the camera on for a moment so I can know how many of you. Yeah, and then I will ask who wants to start of you. So everyone else, please turn your camera off. I'm going to do this with you in a moment, and then we will go to gallery view, right? So let's do that. Turn video off, everyone off your videos, and then you go to gallery view. You can do that, let's say here, if like probably now I'm occupying your screen, you click escape, and then you will be able to go back to your Zoom window once you're in gallery view, which you find in the upper right corner. I think that in the current Zoom version is much more on the right side. So there is view and then gallery view. So click there. I hope you can find it. And then you will see that you have a little square in the Zoom window. Hover over your little square and then click on the 3 little dots that appear in it. And then click hide non-video participants. Yeah. So this will mean, let's say I'm going to stop sharing now because I'm going to do it with you. There we go. Yeah, thank you. I see some of you of the alumni with the camera. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Awesome. Thank you. Yes, no, Marco, you stay with the camera on, please. Exactly. So this is, let's say, this would be our fish because they have the camera on. So those are the people that would be speaking. And then if they have the camera off, this means they go out of this fishbowl. So only people with the camera on will appear here, and those are the people. Now Marco's gone, so he's not the fish anymore. So these are the people having the combo. Thank you, Marco, for that demonstration. Yes, and we invite to have 3-4 of us continuously here. So my invitation would be, I mean, if those, let's say, those are the alumni, then I would invite you to stay already as starting fish. I hope that is okay for you. Yes. Awesome, thank you. And I'm going to share now the prompt in the chat. And once I have a feeling, you know, I'm done, or some of you of the listeners have something you would like to share or you would like to ask, put your camera on and then you ask your question and then you stay. It's very important that you just don't throw your question and then go, but you engage in the conversation. So now we're having a collective conversation, yeah? All right, so I think that's us, that we are set up. And I just would throw the question in the middle. And we have about 25-ish minutes, and I'll be counting time and letting you know how we're doing. So what are the challenges you have overcome with your network? No, you don't have to. Yes, 25-ish minutes, but you don't have to stay here, Marco, don't worry, for 25 minutes. That's all right. All right, so what are the challenges you have overcome with your network and how, and what have been important sources of support, strength, and resilience? So yeah, curious to hear your stories, folks. Over to you. Thank you.
I can start by pitching something in. It's just the two of us. It's Arco. Yeah, like one of the things that I was struggling with my network is we all had different expectations over what the project was about. And actually, indeed, it feel like we were valuing things very differently. Maybe like very briefly, we are going to like a self-organized festival with a bunch of friends, and for a few people, it was just a festival. But for a lot of us, it was like, hey, how can we create something that really feels good? You know, like find what's important to us, go to this, understanding what is our offer, what is our collective identity. So where the process was really, really, yeah, like part of what we're doing. And so there was a bit of tension. For some people, were doing too many meetings, for some others, not enough. And the other thing that was important about this is everybody was collectively benefiting from everybody's work. There was not a single person that was getting something more concrete out of it. Maybe they were getting more, I don't know, like respect from others, more, yeah, connection to the other people, but everybody was getting kind of the same out of it. And so we had a nice session, actually very much inspired by what I learned in the Thriving Networks, where we dived a bit deeper into bringing this value to the surface so that it was a bit clear that we were going a bit for different reason. And then we stayed with the question, is this enough? Is this okay enough for us? Or do we need to change something? And in the end, we agreed that everything was a bit clear, and we put it as a kind of any level of contribution is okay as long as we're very clear and transparent about it. So yeah, if for some people it's just a festival and they're going to just go there and experience, that's okay. As long as you say, hey, this is how much I'm putting, and that's also fine. So I think this is the first challenge that came to my mind and how we handled it. Yeah.
Thank you, Marco, for kicking us off. I'm still actually I'm having a hard time transitioning because I'm still with some of the things that Ash was saying earlier, and especially one of the things she ended with which was the being building community or being in community is an end of its end in and of itself, right? Versus as a means to something else. And I think that puts me squarely in that challenge tension of value, and then the idea of like the stewards, the co-founders, whoever of the network, feeling like, oh, we need to understand our members, we need to figure out what they want, we need to figure out what's in it for them, and then we need to provide value to make it work. And being in that tension of, on the one hand, of course, like for people to be part of something, they need to feel belonging, they need to have an interest in the topic, they need to gain something from it, right? But at the same time, I wouldn't want to be in this sort of like, to generalize, kind of Western capitalistic view of like, oh, provide value, throw something at people and then that's why they engage. That sort of like give and take, that sort of like I must provide you something so that you provide something back. Like that feels kind of an exchange. It feels transactional, right? So I think that's one piece from the very beginning, like the challenge of like, how do you actually, engage people, provide value, but not make it feel like it's a transaction, that people who join because they want to gain something from that. So that's one piece, hasn't been solved, per se. Another related piece is moving from I had this sort of like a personal, almost like a personal challenge to myself, like how quickly could we go from a small team of co-founders to like engage others, like new members, into the governance, if you will, and try to get the co-founders not necessarily to step back, and or to sort of like give up, basically not to give up power necessarily, but really to share that power and collective ownership of, of the network. Tried a couple of different things, did not necessarily work. So can't say that I have an answer to the how. But what I do have a couple of insights, and one is and relates to something else that Ash was saying, which was like about the being, the seeing, and the doing, and the being parts. Being in that core team, core group, whatever combination of people who are at a given moment in time stewarding the effort forwards, that is honestly the biggest source of support and comfort and help, and I think helps us all kind of stay connected. And I think the other piece is to stay like, it feels like it's we may have a challenge, and we may be addressing the challenge, and then just when we think, oh, we've almost overcome the challenge, it's almost like the challenge changes itself. It transforms into something similar and something related. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute, we thought we just solved this, but then no, we haven't. We now there's a new manifestation of that thing. So just being, I guess, aware of this, and and not feel this despair, if you will, for like in some cases just being stuck in this, trying to make things work in a certain way. Yeah, check.
So a lot of talk has been about intention and how do you design things, how do you take action intentionally, and then accidentally sometimes you hit synergy and you don't know how you hit synergy, how networks come together synergistically without real intention of it. Trial and error hits somehow, you just align that way. And then that is the kind of experience you learn to give to others. But it is only in the coming together that this happens, and then the coming together keeps the network together, but it's in clouds. No real even when it's trying to gather strength, it's like catching clouds. And that itself is, and the first thing that you said, Zarko, about how do you pay back? How is it not a transaction? It's, if you're not seeing it as a transaction, you're just showing up because you understand that there is something else in it for you, that you're just showing up, brings something to the fire, and the fire is alive and it's vital and it's essential, but it again rounds up to the fact that some things happen accidentally, and then you have to, how do you not do the wrong things to fizzle out the fire unintentionally even.
Maybe I can share a couple of thoughts as well, and anyone wants to join the fishbowl, please. I'm happy to also step out. Yeah, there is this sentence that I'm also, well, obviously I'm facing the same issues of how to sustain engagement, how to motivate engagement from people to start co-owning the space and contributing, feeling co-responsible. So I'm taking a breath because, yeah, I think these things take so much time. So I guess this cultivating patience, that building a community and a network takes so much time. And there is this nice sentence that I like to let it guide also my behavior, is that people do join for values and they stay for belonging. So how do we, as like facilitators, as community organizer, really create the space for the members, the people that show up, to really properly connect face to face, personally, create an emotional connection, create spaces for vulnerability. So I'm really trying to add this component to the events when I try to bring together the network that I'm trying to sustain. And maybe another thing that I find really fascinating is that when there starts to be like contribution, how I'm trying to switch more towards how can we, instead of like kind of, how can we acknowledge without judgment the contribution? So this is like something that I'm trying to also work through. So how can we just say, hey, I see you're putting like work in it and I see it, instead of like really like going into like really thanking or putting like judgment, "Oh, that's so good," you know? So to avoid maybe comparison, to avoid people that can spend different time, different energies. And I feel like this, yeah, like make people seen, you know, like, and you see people for what they're contributing without, yeah, like a judgment. And when you are offering something, how can we support people in internal motivation without like a transaction saying that I'm giving something back? But yeah, I'm still working through that. Obviously, maybe with tokens, you know, like tokens that are, yeah, really showing that you see people's putting time and effort into something. Yeah.
Hi, I just jumped in because what Marco just said is something that brought actually something that we kind of have overcome. You know, I was trying to figure out what challenge we have that we've overcome, and we still have the same challenges or the main ones on our network. But this thing about visibility and contribution and being seen is something that as soon as I took the course, I made it happen within the network, and now it's kind of like I don't want to say a ritual, but it's something that we consciously do, right? Every time we gather, because that's the only thing that we've been able to do as a network, gather. We explicitly shared who contributed and what was that contribution, even if it was tiny contribution, and people that feeling of being seen, that feeling of being recognized has been important to keep kind of like a healthy mental and heart health to the leaders who are actually doing most of the work. Because even if it's something as simple as saying thank you, it's kind of important for the group who is actually putting energy and putting resources and putting in the love that make it happen. So I don't know, just it is something that we have sort of overcome. That was a challenge, or it was not a challenge. It was something that we haven't thought of before, and it's been working. The other big challenges that we have, and I'm going to share them because we're still struggling with how to overcome them, is this thing about, you know, we believe that Puerto Rico, we are still a real colony, and we have not been a free country ever, right? We, since 1593, I believe 92, Christopher Columbus found the island, and the island has been a colony since then, and we haven't been able to be free. So there's this colonizing idea of never wanting to take the risk of being in power because we've never had it, you know, individually and in groups. And it has been a real challenge for our network, who's trying to transform the economy of Puerto Rico through our through the social and solidarity economy, and making it more human. And this thing of getting into place and not and being afraid of stepping in, even if the leaders are really open and want to for people to step in and to work with us and to do things. Not everyone does it, and we have a lot of new people coming into all our gatherings and they never come back. And we have some of the people that always come but never step in to do more of the work. I believe it is that kind of not wanting to, or not wanting to, like being afraid of stepping into the power with, right? Because we've been always power under, if that's something. So of course the leaders, we get burned out and we don't have enough time. And what we figured out is that instead of trying to do a lot of things, we're just doing the things that we are that we can do, and they're small and they're points, and we've been focusing on that thing of relationships that been something that's been talked about here, and contribution, and with the hopes that with building those relationships and strengthening those relationships, then we can I don't want to say scale up, but more expand our network. Hi, Joanne.
Hi there. Hi. I tentatively step in. There's so much that resonates, really. And I was hesitant to step in because whilst I am an alumni, I haven't really made much progress because the network that I'm in, that I've had my attention on, is a pre-existing long-term community who I believe could really benefit from the work from the thriving networks. They are a network. They are perhaps stuck in old paradigms, and they're of really what I've encountered is the people who are at the core are really holding on to this kind of structurelessness, which, and not really letting go to allow people to act in a role of power with. So it's taken me more than a year. I mean, it's a group I've been connected with for over 30 years. It's taken me over a year to kind of create communication via this type of method, a fishbowl method, where we've managed to get the larger people who've not been seen for a while into a fishbowl and reconnecting, which has been really positive. But progress has been painfully slow from my perspective. And even to get the core, who are kind of the holders, they're not even really leadership, but they're kind of holding this kind of almost stagnation where they're kind of like denying structure, denying resource, denying their own powerful place. So to try to shake that a little and not really, I end up getting overzealous and a little bit too determined, which upsets people. So yeah, I haven't been successful, but I've been really trying to bring this kind of concept into an existing group that might want to consider this kind of new way of being, where that it could be flatter rather than waiting for somebody else to do something. Yeah, that's my experience. I hope that makes some sense.
Yeah, it's kind of for us has been kind of like that as well. That we are so the models that we have are so hierarchical that when you bring something that is different and more egalitarian or distributed, it just doesn't click with people, and it has been truly difficult to get them to even start thinking about that.
Yeah, I think that reflects it really well, actually. And I think what they perceive in trying to come in with something more egalitarian is they maybe perceive me trying to claim power in some way. So there's an awful lot to say in a short piece of opportunity to try to offer a different view, really. Yeah. So it's good to hear other people's struggles, more even than how successful they are.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you all for coming. And no, that's okay, Marco. I'm just saying that, now we're opening officially, let's say, the Fishbowl to everyone. So thank you, Joanne, for coming in. Definitely. I would still like to hear from Nancy. Nancy Shadlock, I know you're in the audience, but also from anyone else. And those of you in the Fishbowl, don't be afraid of stepping out. If that's what you want to do, we can leave it empty and, let's see who wants to say something. So don't worry about that. And just encouraging everyone to share your challenges. If you have overcome them, cool. If not, just share your challenges. We can learn so much about them, and it just feels good as well to hear that other people are in the same boat, rowing as well. So yeah, I'll just leave it over back to the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in and talk about struggles. I feel like that has characterized my exercises in creating collective. About a year and a half ago, I founded the Conscious Queer Collective, and bringing together people in the queer community who are feeling alone and isolated and different things. And we had some good meetings and some good connection time, but I found it didn't grow to the extent that I was hoping, and it became just a few people that would come and kind of brought a heavy energy. And as a leader, I wasn't able to, I don't know, have the right structure or formation of the space and the time to keep it in like a, I don't know, uplifting place. And so I think what I've learned from it is like I need to have a better structure of some sort. And then also what I'm hearing from all of you is like more collective leadership, more buy-in in different ways. And so actually on my docket today is to send out the invitation to folks for an alumni group that I'm creating. My work these days is focused around mental fitness training. And so helping people have the tools that they need to quell anxiety and stress. And I've been offering that in cohorts of people have gone through the trainings. And so that's been a really neat way to see people come together in groups and learn. And then I'm realizing that there'll be a really great value in people continuing on with, after kind of the 6-week boot camp of mental fitness training, having a group of people that they can keep connected with who are also using the same tools and the same language. And so then having these little pods join into an alumni group and going forward. And so what I'm taking from today is something that it was kind of in the back of my mind, but it's even more solid now, is like, especially as, summer comes here in North America, I will be busy and won't always be able to lead the monthly meeting. And so having other people join in as leaders of the meeting and just having that dispersed amongst many people, I think will be really beautiful. And especially if we all have these tools, I think that will be really neat. So thank you all for sharing, because it has inspired me for my next iteration of my network.
So when Joel speaks Puerto Rico, I say Puerto Rico, but you say Puerto Rico. Or the T is absent there. And when you pick up your hand upwards, somehow there is an image that arrives behind you. There is an image, that becomes available somehow, in between. So, and what I'm trying to make a point for is that there is this space for anything to appear anywhere in networks, because you get away from your belief systems when these things come clashing in. If you're available to changing your own stance a little bit, even just a little bit. And that's the grace of it all. That is that you can be bigger than your own constructs that keep you stabilized. And about the fact of catching clouds, I was thinking about it, and it is cloudy, that place where this thing happens, where you take a new shape. It's cloudy, it's tumultuous, you're not able to make a decision because there's so much in the field, but you're still shifting. And rather than, I had a epiphany in between while talking. I was looking at it different one way, and then I started looking at it differently because something came together, because the ambit gave me space to hang my worries with someone else because they were holding it, and so I could do something new rather than hanging on to my worries.
Thank you. That what you said about being bigger than our own concepts, it brings up to me this idea of needing to be patient, which you sometimes see it right there, and you know your network can do these type of things, and having the patience for others to get to that same vision, for others to get it as well. It's something I personally struggle with, right? And I guess that's one of the big challenges. And when we are the team of leaders, get together, it's like we know we can do this much, and we can have this big impact, and I don't know, and feel that we need to practice that compassion for others and for ourselves to be able to get to that I don't know, that inner struggle. I'm veering off my mind. I'm sorry. Bensi, help me.
What I heard from him in the image of the clouds, and like I do think that as founders or the visionaries, often we feel like we're in the cloud, and it makes me think of Tom's work with his book Working with Source, based off of Peter's work. And so thinking about, the source often is in the fog, and so it's okay. We will embrace that and know that having others around us as sounding boards and things can really help us like speak things out, and then sometimes they can execute things from our cloudy what's going on up here.
Yeah, actually, that's that. Thanks for bringing up the source concept, because one thing that I've been trying to figure out is who was our source, and I believe it's someone that just came in, gathered us for the first time, and never came back. And having and I don't even know how to ask them to come in and pass on the source, so someone can actually be clear about what our network can be. Luz.
Hello.
Saludos.
Hello, everyone. Igualmente, gracias. My name is Luz. I'm in Argentina. Something that was coming to my mind all the time listening to all of you had to do with like the tension between ideals and possibles. That's something that happens to me all the time. I would love to have these situations happen and these facilitation, whatever techniques and these ideal members and this ideal whatever. That's not how it works, at least not for me. But then what I do have whatever it is, it's good enough facilitation skills, good enough members, good enough ideals, good enough whatever. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was working with this network whose governability was far from what I expected, let's say. It was very sort of hierarchical, and it didn't feel like a network at a point. And I was organizing this very complex, like democratic transition or whatever. And it was really messy, and I had the feeling that it's what needed to be done, but it would be a mess. And I wasn't sure that everyone would understand it and this kind of thing. So someone in the network who was much brighter than me and had a much clearer vision this gigantic step, which has high chances to fail. So it doesn't matter if this meeting is not as democratic as you would like it to, or if looking at an ideal situation, but it wasn't likely to happen if
I would highly recommend reading Tom's book. And then she says that for the coalition, at one point we decided founders, they're only incubating members. That maybe that equalizes power. And I think what someone else said earlier about like we only have kind of patriarchal forms of leadership that we know in groups, and it is such a. I remember when I first started learning about source work, I kind of was like, I don't like this because it feels like it like puts this source on one person or something, and they have all this power, and we're all about the collaborative leadership, and yet I can see now there is, like Joel is saying, like if you don't know who the source of this group is, there's kind of this like lost sheep mentality, and like there's not a clear vision, and the source is kind of the tender of the garden and the flock. They're the one who takes on this responsibility in some ways of nurture, rather than this patriarchal way of like, I'm the boss, you listen to me, but more of like a bottom up nurture is how I picture it. And so yeah, but it's really challenged my views of patriarchal leadership that we only know versus really dispersed leadership where everyone is leading, but there does need to be some kind of focal point, and then there can be sub-sources for each section, and you can have people and have them run with that once they have something they're clear on, as long as it's aligned with the main source kind of thing. And so those have been interesting things to ponder in leadership in this way.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that participated. We can now bring all our cameras on for everyone for whom that is okay. Samuel wants to say one last thing. Okay, but really short, please, just so that we stay on time, and then thank you.
There's this book that you might have heard of, Bhagavad Gita, and in that there's the lead protagonist is speaking the person who's not going to the fight. The ultimate source, if you may. That you can attribute everything to him. When I say source, it's a belief system. And it's just that, does that make you stronger? Or what I'm saying is, I haven't been trained in source or anything else, but I can understand it through your ambit, and then I know where it can falter because I'm not trained and I'm not entrenched in it. And I can see the limits of it stretched to something, and I can posit it inside a metaphor that you can see that the expanse of it can be so massive that, yeah, that's my thing.
Thank you.
But it is just a belief system.
Thank you. You mentioned the book as well. If you can then put it in the chat for everyone to have access to it, that would be great. But I'll have to cut you here. Really sorry. Yes, thank you so much. I would like to hear, I've been doing my best to do some live blogging. I've missed some of the gems though. So I want to ask all of you to just engage a little more moment in the chat. And if you could just write down, what is your main takeaway? You can share more if you want to, but what is that thing that is like, I'm taking this with me, or you felt a strong resonance? Let's see what we have there. Thank you, Kristen, for the book reference. And yeah, sharing these takeaways is also an act of generosity. It helps us remember things that we might have also thought that were great. So yeah, once you're done, you can just press enter and we'll have a look at it. It's hard for everyone. Yeah, that's always a good reminder as well. The paradoxes that Ash shared, the power of people sharing their work and challenges, sparks of other ideas and ways of moving forward. Let's see, what else? Finding a community of practitioners, a sense of solidarity. Yeah, the effort that we have to put in. Building takes time and patience. Something like pulling threads from thin air. Admiration for the hidden labor, commitment, and generosity that allows this group to have the camaraderie. Oh yeah, thank you. That's kind. Yeah, the catching clouds. Keep them coming for a little bit more and see what else is there. We'll send you the chat as well, so that stays with us. And I think that with this, I will start passing it over to David, another colleague who's been in the background of this call, to see what are some other possibilities of continuing being engaged together, keep working, keep learning. So David, whenever you want to or feel ready, or maybe you have an eye on the chat, just pop in.
Thanks so much, Alicia. Let's see if I can make this Zoom thing work. Oh yeah, looking good. So yes, Alicia has mentioned, the session is over, almost. the journey is not. So we'd like to share a couple of further thoughts and resources and how we might want to continue this together. Oh yeah, maybe first, this session is part of the Networks Festival, as you know, a festival that has been co-created by the FIDO Network and Greaterthan. And yeah, we want to make this accessible to everyone to participate. And by doing so, yeah, we work with this contribution within capacity model. So if you want and if you have capacity to support the festival, my colleagues will put a link into the chat. There is a way of doing so, like 446 other people have done. Thanks a lot. And yeah, feel free to connect with us after this session. In the chat, you will find ways to connect with us, with Ashraf, with Alicia, with Francesca, us at Greaterthan in general, and myself. And of course, the festival is not over yet. There is a lot of interesting sessions still coming up. Two I would like to emphasize, because they are related to the theme at hand today. One, how resource and fund impact networks, happening on June 11th, and networks, money, and collective power, where you will see two familiar faces again, Francesca and Alicia, next to other hosts. And yeah, also beyond the festival, in October, we're again starting with our next cohort of the Thriving Networks course, of which you have seen many alumni today. It's a 9-week course, and we have just recently also opened the registrations. If you're not sure yet whether you would like to register, there's also a link to a forum where you can basically express your interest. So we might get in touch with you. There is the How podcast, where there are episodes around network leadership journeys. And there is a new initiative coming up where we are all excited about, the Greaterthan Lab. And I'm happy to hand over back to you, Alicia, to share with us what this is about.
Yes, the Greaterthan Lab is something we're building at the moment. It's sort of what we've been doing through the years, and maybe some of you know that if you take what you're like, sometimes you rediscover what is it that we're doing, and we realize at Greaterthan that we're a living lab of alternative organizing, and why not give that the credential that it deserves, and how to improve our learning and how to improve how we share that learning with the world. So that's something we will be working on, to many of the, for example, stories that we share, like what were our experiments, what were our challenges, how we dealt with that, what are the tools, what are the processes, how we did that. So we want to work with all of that and make it available to as many people as possible, and not only internally from Greaterthan, but also what is happening with our collaborations, how can we learn together. And yeah, we'll be launching soon, in about a month's time. And yeah, we're also looking for funding. So if you have any ideas of who is funding alternative organizing, democratic organizing, we'll be happy to hear from you, or that you pass on the link. Just wanted to leave you this as something I'm very, very excited about, and that maybe we can replicate in other forms with other people. But to really just be able to bridge how important it is that we are learning all together, all of us here, to organize in a different way, and what the importance that this has for our societies, especially in the current moment that we are now. So that's what we aim for. And with this, I'll pass it on to our session host, Fran, to let's say, completely close the session of today.
Thank you. I think we're pretty well closed. I guess just to note that you're going to receive a follow-up email that also has all these links, because obviously that was a lot, and I think we'll definitely pull together everything from the chat also and share that with you too, because there was, I think, a lot of really great gems in there. And one other thing I also wanted to note, because it's something that's pretty specific about thriving networks that we've been experimenting with, which David also just showed for the festival, which is this model called contribution within capacity, which is basically, it's something that we've learned about from an organization called NGL and Mickey Kashtan, which is about basically making explicit your needs and then inviting people to contribute within their capacity as much as they can without overstretching or feeling resentful. It's been a really powerful practice, and both with Thriving Networks and also with this festival, we decided to experiment with basically making explicit the needs and then inviting people to contribute. So that's sort of a good way to, I guess, start diving into the invitation of the course, is like thinking about how much would I actually want to contribute and can contribute. And so that's been a really interesting experience just as an entry point in itself. And I think it's a lot of different ways that can be applied. And we're also going to talk more about that in one of the sessions that David shared, the networks, power and collective action. No, networks, money, and collective power. Exactly. So yeah, lots of really great things to explore. And yeah, I feel really enriched by the conversation. Thank you again so much, Ash, for coming in. And I'm really even more excited now to see how we can continue to collaborate. And I also want to give a brief shout out to Jojo Spinks, who's here, who also I did an interview with on the how. We also briefly shared in the chat, that also gives some really great insights, I think, into the network that she's been building. So yeah, lots of great things to explore further. So yeah, I think with that, I would say we can all unmute and wave and give ourselves an extra 3 minutes back.
Yay!
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for participating.
Thank you.